This free conference call is provided by Uber Conference. Joining conference.
Hello, hello, everyone. My apologies for being a few minutes late. Having some technical difficulties, so please let me know if you have any audio problems at all. Go ahead and shoot me an email or text or tweet, whatever you feel comfortable with. What we're doing today is I'm actually recording this on a third-party site instead of directly through our webinar format, just because we had some issues setting up the recording. So I'll wait a few seconds for you all to respond so that I know if you can hear me or not before we get too much into it. For the people who are viewing on video, hello, hello. I am so excited. We are in week 5. Next week is week 6. You are almost there. And I am so excited about the progress that you all are making, the breakthroughs that you're experiencing. You're realizing some things about yourself that's going to help propel you to the next level. And that is absolutely phenomenal. I am just loving how you all are just pushing yourselves and taking it to the next level. So we have been talking about execution. So over the past 2 weeks, you had a task, and that task was to move forward each day doing one thing that was going to move you one step closer to reaching your career goals for 2016. Now, I've talked to a couple of you in person when I've seen you out and about, and your email, your homework assignments have get me fired up and pumped up because you all are just taking it full steam ahead. So please go ahead. Let me know if you all can hear me. I know we're going through a third party today for audio quality just because we had some technical difficulties with Google Plus. So please go ahead, send me a quick email, a text, or a tweet. I'm checking all of those right now just to make sure that you can hear me. We're about to do a deep dive into negotiations, covering some of the topics that you sent in so that we can really address those issues and prepare you to move forward in your next negotiation. All right, I'm getting some messages. I can hear you. I have another message. Yep, good to go. All right, cool, cool, cool. So let's rock and roll. Now, the first thing about negotiation, we talk about a career strategy. We have to own our own success. And that means sometimes we have to ask for things instead of waiting on people to give them to us. So this means raising your hand, and saying, hey, I want to apply for that job, but not just putting the application in online, speaking to people that you know who are in positions of authority to hire, letting them know that you are interested in taking your career to the next level and you're interested in a different position. So with negotiation, I love that people can experience different levels of negotiation. With that, you don't know if you're getting a good deal or a bad deal, depending on the level of your negotiation skills, unless you do some research. So you can get a lot of information. You can read my book. You can listen to the podcast. You can listen to the Wednesday webinars. But if you don't go in prepared, you don't know if you're going to be receiving a good deal or a bad deal. So I'm going to start with the basics here. We're going to talk about ways to prepare to know if you're getting a good deal or not. Then we're going to move one step further into how to have those conversations. And this week's download for the class was a handout. It's 3 parts. It's a checklist for you to prepare your negotiations. But the most important part of that is going to be the post-negotiation evaluation, because the more you do it, the better you're going to get. All right, so back to the beginning. Let's start off with, how do you find out if you're going to get a good deal or a bad deal? It starts with preparation. Now, preparation is going to be very, very basic. It's going out online. There's a couple of websites that I like. One is payscale.com, there's salary.com, and glassdoor.com. Those are just 3 websites where you can get an average of how much people make in your city for the position that you're in. It's really important to look at that data because, again, you don't know if you're getting a good job offer or a bad job offer, or in terms of salary and compensation, if you don't know what other people are being paid. Now, on January 29th of this year, President Obama signed an executive order. His executive order had a couple of steps in it. It was related to equal pay because in 2016, women still earn less than men when it comes to their compensation for equal work. So one of the things in this executive order is pay transparency, where employers will have to disclose what they pay men, what they pay women, and what they pay people by race. So it's really going to break it down. And once that goes through in a couple of years, that's going to be the place where I'm sending people to get their salary information, because it's going to be really, really accurate based on the company, based on the industry. So that's going to give you some more real data. But until that comes out, we're just relying on people's self-reporting. And that's coming from, again, payscale.com, glassdoor.com, and salary.com. The reason why you want to check, again, I cannot overemphasize this. I'm going to keep talking about this over and over, because this is the part where people say, I don't need to do that. That's a waste of time. And the people who ignore my advice, getting the data up front, they inevitably come back to me saying, oh my goodness, I'm making less. And that's because they didn't know when they accepted the job offer if they were getting a good deal or a bad deal. Check out those sites. Beyond that, you want to talk to people in your network. Find out from people that you know what's a range you should expect for the position that you are applying for or interviewing for, or even if you're going up around your performance review time and you're thinking of asking for more money, you just want to talk to people and say, hey, I'm considering this position, or I have a friend who's considering this position. What type of salary range should they expect? Should it be around $85,000? Should it be around $92,000? Throw out a number, throw out a range, and you'll get people's reaction. They'll say, oh yeah, that's about right, or no, well, that's kind of low, or that's a bit high. When you talk to people who are in the industry, who know other people in the industry, they're more likely to share with you what range is appropriate, and then you're getting some real-time data beyond what's reported on those online portals, all right? So that's the first thing that I need you to do. Now, when it comes to applying for jobs online, I want you to remember a couple of things. Applying for a job online, when you put your salary in the online application, you're throwing out your first number. Now, what you make in your current job may not be 100% relevant to the job that you're going to be doing after you finish an interview process or when you go up for promotion or raise. So again, go back to your research. Because we know that women earn 79 cents on the dollar compared to a man, in order for us to move the needle on the wage gap and for you to earn what you're worth when it comes to negotiating, it means that you're going to have to start basing your salary expectations on the position that you want, not the positions that you've had in the past. So in that, when you put in that number online, don't leave it blank. I know a lot of people will put zeros and say it's negotiable. Of course it's negotiable. They know that they're going to engage in that conversation with you. You want to put out a real range out there. Now, expectations drive behavior. And I'm going to repeat that. Expectations drive behavior. What does that mean? That means that when you go in and you are negotiating your salary, and you put that number online, and let's say you have a range, and that range is from $92,000 to $98,000. 92 is the lowest. Don't put your salary expectation 92. Go ahead and put 98. Because if you aspire for the lower number, you're going to get closer to that or less than that. If you aspire to the higher number, you're going to get close to that. Sometimes you might get it, and sometimes it might be slightly lower. But if you aim for the lowest end of the range right out of the gate, then you have no opportunity to get closer to the higher end of the range. Now, I know all of you, we're in week 5 of this 6-week program. I've been reading your homework weekly. I know that you are not average. All of you in this program, you're above average. And I'm not just saying that. I know that for a fact because I've been reading your homework. I see your drive. I see the steps that you're taking so that you can move your career to the next level. So with that being said, you don't need to aim for the lower end of the range. I want you to make sure that you're aiming towards the higher end of the salary range because you come with a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and you're going to exceed expectations on the job. So when you put in a number on your application, when you apply to a job, make sure you do your research first. But whatever range that you determine is appropriate for your position in the city that you're in, make sure you aim for the higher end of that spectrum. All right. So I'm going to go through some of the questions that we have. You all had lots of great questions about negotiation. And with that, I've kind of grouped some of the questions together. So I might not read your question word for word. It's because someone else may have had a similar question, and I've grouped them together for today's workshop. All right. Now, we talked about the basics. One of the main things that I enjoy doing is negotiation preparation. So you have your checklist in front of you, and I'm just going to pull up the checklist here so I can look at it with you. That first checklist, what I want you to do is I want you to start thinking about your interests. What things are important to you when you accept this job? For some of you, I know education is really big. You're going for additional certifications, so you want to make sure that you put that on your list. Education is extremely important to me. Professional development is important to me. Personal development is important to me. Put that on your negotiation planning sheet. Now, what other things are important? For some of you, having a flexible work schedule because you have little ones at home and you need to be able to go to a school program if you want to, or take off when you need to, or little ones get sick. You want to stay at home and work from home while you're watching over them. So all of your interests, the things that are important to you, you want to do that. Now, don't forget to put down the other things like mobility in the company, the opportunity to be promoted, and the opportunity to grow in your career and move to a higher position. If you're interviewing with a company who hasn't grown much in the last 20 years and everybody at that company has been at the company for 15, 20 plus years, there isn't a lot of movement in terms of upward mobility for you to grow and progress. So that's something that you have to be honest with yourself. Even if they're going to pay you the salary that you want, if it isn't going to give you the opportunity to grow and have additional responsibility, then, I mean, you got to weigh it out. You have to come to a term where you're saying, what's most important to me? Is the money most important to me, or is the opportunity to grow the most important for me? When I wrote Navigating the Career Jungle, one of the things that I wrote the book to express to my peers is that when you're progressing in your career, it isn't always a ladder. It isn't one step higher, higher, higher. Sometimes you take a step to the side. Sometimes you take a step back so that you can reposition yourself to grow and to move to the position that you ultimately want to be in. So sometimes money is important. Sometimes money isn't the most important thing. But I want you to think clearly about this process. And the way that you're going to think clearly about the process is making sure that you write down all of your interests. Now, when you print this sheet out, you might need more room. Write on the back if you need to, but you have to make sure you list all of your interests up front so that you know if this is going to be a good job for you or not. Now on here I say know your BATNA. Your BATNA is a negotiation term. BATNA, it stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. This term became popular in the 1980s when Robert Fisher and William Ury wrote the negotiation book, Getting to Yes. It's a really great book. I recommend that you check it out on audio. If you have time, the audio book is a really good version of this. Now, what is your BATNA when it comes to your job? Well, you know your interests. Your interests, you have to start there in order to know what is your best alternative. Now, if you are looking for another job, you currently have a job, and someone is going to offer you $10,000 less, you're going to work more hours, but you're going to be in an industry that you want to be in, then you have to start looking at it and say, what is my best alternative to taking this job? Is my best alternative to stay where I'm at, where I'm working a flexible work schedule, where I can spend time with my friends and family and do the things that I enjoy, and I'm still making a decent salary? Or am I going to take a huge salary cut, work more hours just to be in the field that I want? In that case, for me personally, I would say, that's not quite worth it for me. I'm going to look for something else in that industry. I know there has to be something better for me. Now let's talk about on the flip side. Let's say you get a really sweet offer. Compared to your current job, the salary is the same, but you're going to get a title change. You're going to get an opportunity to progress, and you're going to be on a track to move upward, and upward mobility is important to you. Along with that, you're going to get flexible work hours, and you're going to get, let's say, $3,000 annually for professional development. Well, when you start looking at it like that, even though the salary is the same, you're going to be working from home, so you don't have to commute. So that's money that you're saving on gas. If you buy lunch, you don't have to spend money on lunch because you're going to be home. You can eat, things that you have at home. And then in addition to that, that time that you would spend going and commuting, and I see some more of your questions coming through. I'm going to get to those in just a second. In addition to that, you have this $3,000 where it's not a part of your salary, but this is money that you don't have to spend out of your pocket. So that is a huge boost. So when you look at what is my best alternative to this deal, and you're like, well, I'm moving, it's the same salary, but I get the upper mobility, I get the professional development, and you go back and you look at your interests and you say, these are the things that are important to me. For me personally, I would take that offer where I'm moving in a position where I have that same base salary, but I have more potential to grow. Plus, I have this $3,000 professional development fund. All right, so those are some of the things that you want to think about. Your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. What's your best alternative to the job offer that they're presenting to you? Now, you need to understand their interest as well. As you're going throughout the interview process, I want you to ask questions that are beyond the surface level. Don't just ask, what is the team culture like? Instead of asking that question, I want you to try asking questions like, can you tell me more about the day-to-day operations in this group? And how will I be involved in special projects if there are any special projects? And if there are special projects, what is the time commitment for these special projects? Really honing in and getting crystal clear on those things. Then take it one step beyond that and say, okay, I understand the expectations of the group. Now, is this a new position, or was someone in this position before me? Okay, someone was in this position before me. Then you can move on to say, well, tell me more about them. What characteristics made them successful? Not necessarily about the person, but you want to learn about the behaviors that they did, Did they deliver results? And that will be quickly determined without anyone bad-mouthing anyone. You can quickly determine if the person who had the role before you, they did well or they didn't. And then you want to ask another question, which is super critical. For people who are most successful in this type of position, what are the characteristics that you most admire? Because now you're finding out from the person who's hiring, what are the things that they like in people that they work with. Now, this is super important when it comes to negotiating your salary and your total compensation package, because when you get to the point where they offer you the job, you want to be able to tell them, if they come and they say they're going to offer you $82,000, and that was the lower end of the range, higher end of the range, $82,000, higher end of the range, let's say, was 91. Well, you want to be able to come back to them and say, well, you know, you mentioned to me that the most successful characteristics of the person was X, Y, and Z. And one of the things that you mentioned when you presented this offer to me is that I have those characteristics. I also have proven experience doing X, Y, Z. That's something that you were excited about. And beyond that, what we discussed that you would want me to work on these special projects, you know, 2 or 3 times a year, which would take about 6 weeks of me working some overtime beyond, you know, the basic 40 hours a week. I will be working potentially 45 to 50 hours a week during the special project periods, which I am more than willing to do and excited to do because I know I can deliver a job. I want to pause right there. You want to reiterate as you begin to negotiate that you can deliver, that you can exceed expectations on the job. All right, so you found out those special things that you're going to be working on, and then when you get the offer, you're going to bring these things up again and say, I can do this. I have proven results in this. I'm excited to do it. I'm going to nail it. I'm going to hit it out of the park. But I was thinking, based on my experience, I should be closer to the higher end of this range. Again, you don't know what the range is if you don't do your homework. So you got to talk to people. You got to go to those websites so that you can get an idea of what the range is. All right, so this is great. I'm giving you lots of scripted ways that you can have this conversation, but this is where I find most people have the problem. My clients who get a $10,000 salary increase, a $20,000 salary increase, those people actually follow through with what I coach them on, and they engage in the conversation and they ask. The people who do not are the people who let their fear get the best of them. So they are pumped up, they get ready to go into the conversation, and then when they get ready to have that moment where they're talking, they're like, oh, I'll just accept the job because I'm happy to have the job and I need the money. People aren't just going to give you an extra $10,000. If you don't ask, you will not get it. You have to ask. Now, you don't go in with an attitude like, you're going to give me this money right now or I'm out of here, because they just might take you up on that offer and say bye-bye. So again, I've given you some ways where you can reiterate that you're excited about the job, you have the skills and the proven track record to deliver, and you're wondering what can you do to get closer to a range that's more appropriate for your skill level and based on your experience for the work that you'll be expected to deliver. And you can absolutely say, you know, I've done my research and I know that the top performers in this area typically earn, you know, a little bit more than that. So I was hoping that we could get to a point where I can be in the range to earn what the top performers earn because of, and then again, reiterate that you're excited that these were their expectations for you and you can absolutely deliver on them. Discipline. Discipline, discipline, discipline is so important here because you have to know that no matter if the deal is bad or not, that you're going to stick to your bat and that you're going to stay with your best alternative to that job offer. If they don't give you a great deal, you're not going to be afraid to walk away. That comes down to discipline. The people that I find who get more of what they want in a negotiation, they don't cave under pressure. They don't just say, oh, I'll just take this. This is enough. No, they do more than that. What they want to do is they say, you know, I am excited about this opportunity. I know I can nail it. I know I can hit it out of the park for you, but I really need to be closer to this range what other people in the industry are earning, especially in big markets like Atlanta. I know some of you are not in Atlanta, so think about your metro city that's nearest to you and kind of get the salary range for that area. One thing that is important to remember, and one of our questions was, someone just moved from New York to Atlanta. She was making $100,000 in New York, and she's going through the interview process, and she wants to know, well, what can I expect in terms of salary, because I'm going to be taking a pay cut. Well, in some instances, you do have to take a pay cut based on the market rate. Now, the cost of living isn't as much as it was in New York, so that is a factor in how salaries are determined. And then in addition to that, you have to look at the skill level in the market. Maybe there are more people in Atlanta who do what you do than there were in New York City. So there's a lot of factors that goes into salary, but when you're moving from one city to another, it is sometimes acceptable to take a lesser salary based on cost of living and other factors like that. Again, you want to look at the market rate so that you know what you should be earning. And it's completely fine to say, you know, I'm coming from New York. I earned $100,000 there. I know that's a bit high for the Atlanta market, but I want to be as close as possible to that, given my experience level and my proven track record that I know I'm going to be able to deliver similar results for your company in this city. Just have that conversation, then you open the dialogue to move forward. Now, the next thing that I have on my list here is that it's important to remember that your very first job offer, that first number that they throw out to you, that's rarely the best number, because they expect you to negotiate. Whether they say they're expecting you to negotiate or not, it is an unwritten rule, which means that they're expecting you to come back and ask for a little bit more, or at least engage in that conversation. So never accept just the first number flat out. Even if they're firm on the salary, there's other things that you can negotiate for. Now, let's say during this process where you were asking questions during the interview, you learned that they've been working on outdated computer systems or outdated equipment. One of the things that you should ask for when you're accepting this job is, what's the possibility that I can get updated equipment? Because if your expectations of me is to deliver these results, if these are going to be the metrics that I'm measured on, I'm going to need the best tools to set me up for success to deliver results for the team and for the organization. So what can we do to get some updated equipment and some software? When you throw it out like that, they'll say, okay, well, we'll see what we can do. So when you're negotiating, you want to negotiate for things that will set you up to be successful in that role. So maybe if you can't get more money right now, you're going to set yourself up with the tools and resources that you need so that maybe in 6 months to a year, you can come back and have that conversation where you can earn more money. Which brings me to my next point. The next point that I have on the list is that you should start small. So before you engage in the salary negotiations, I want you to think about something super small that you can negotiate. My favorite thing is cell phone bill. So I call my cell phone company and I say, hey, you know, I've been with you all for 15 years and I want to make sure that I'm getting the best possible rate. Can you check on that for me? That's negotiating. I don't have to use the term negotiating to negotiate. So that's something that you can start off small with. In addition to your cell phone, it's easier because you're doing it over the phone, talking to someone about your cell phone bill. Call your insurance company as well. Car insurance, home insurance, renter's insurance. Call them up and say, hey, I want to make sure I'm getting the best possible rate. Can you check to make sure that I'm getting all of the discounts that I'm eligible for? You're negotiating there. Again, you don't have to use the term negotiation to negotiate, but you're making sure that you get the best possible rates, okay? So those are the things that I want you to start small on. Let me go back. In addition to getting salary that you want, or title change, or equipment and software, there are a few additional items that you can negotiate for in the beginning to set yourself up for success with a job. So a few other things is work from home days. That's something that's becoming increasingly popular. Now, if you're a cardiac surgeon, you can't do surgery from home unless there's some new technology that I don't know about. So it's not going to be appropriate if you're a surgeon to have a work from home day. But if your job allows you the flexibility and you can do work from home, then hey, that's a bonus. I have a client who works in the media and entertainment industry. They work 7 days a week, really, really long hours. So what we did was I coached her to negotiate to have 1 day off a month on the weekend. Now, when the season is over, she can take a few days here or there. But for the most part in this industry, it is a hard grind. It's 7 days a week, all month, no days off. So once a month, she's going to have a day and a half off where she doesn't have to answer her phone. So that's going to be from mid-Saturday morning until Sunday afternoon. She's just going to have free time where she's free not to respond to emails and text messages and phone calls for her client, which is going to be huge for her in terms of work-life balance and preventing her from burnout. So think about anything that's going to help you be successful in the role that you're interviewing for, the role that you're applying for, or even if you want a promotion or raise, and then make a list of those things. And those are things that you can ask for when you go into the negotiation. Now, in terms of being firm, let's go back to discipline. If you don't ask for it, you will not get it. So make sure that when you're discussing what you want, you frame it in, hey, can you help me get this? Where can we meet in the middle? And avoid using terms like, I'm negotiating for this, because some people associate negotiation with combativeness, like, oh, we're going to bump heads. So instead of saying that, just like I'm saying, going to the car insurance company and say, I want to make sure I'm getting the best possible rate. Am I getting all of the discounts that I qualify for? You can have a similar conversation with an HR manager or with the person who's hiring you and say, hey, I just want to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success here and that I have all of the tools that I need to be effective in this role. So with that, and then you can throw out the things that you have listed that are important to you for the job. Now, you can make some concessions. If you end up saying yes to everything that they want and they say no to everything that you want, you got to go back to your BATNA. What is the best alternative to that deal? And from there, you'll know if you should move forward or not. For people whose salary cannot change, one of the things that I recommend that you do is say, hey, you know, I understand we're firm on this salary. There's no flexibility right now. But let's say in 6 months we revisit this conversation. Can we start off with saying that in 6 months, we're going to come back to the table. And if I hit XYZ metrics, we can have another discussion about my salary. When you phrase it like that, you're actually negotiating to have a compensation discussion 6 months into it versus a year into it. Now, in those first 6 months, you got to nail it, especially the first 90 days on the job. There's a book that I recommend for my clients to read. It's called The First 90 Days. And it's really a lot of tools and tips to help you set yourself up to hit the ground running, to make sure you're maximizing when you're meeting people those first couple of days, that you're really taking time to start the foundation to build mutually beneficial relationships, so that when you work with them on projects or you have to send them an email or they send you a report, you're working together on certain reports, those very first days are super critical in establishing a good working foundation. So don't discount your first 90 days, but in those first 6 months, you got to hit it out of the park. That means working late if you have to, working weekends if you have to, so that you can get that increase in salary after that 6 month mark. But also, in addition to that, making sure that you have all of the other tools and resources that you need to set you up for success. Now, what happens when you get to the point where you're about to say it and fear just overcomes you? I want you to have a pep talk with yourself. One of the things that I do before I go into a negotiation that might be high stress and I might be getting a little bit nervous, I listen to my favorite music because it gives me confidence. And it's a small thing for different people. It's going to be different things, but find that thing that works for you and maximize on that so that in the moment you have that confidence that you need to ask. Also, remember, if you do not ask, you will not get it. I mean, it's just flat out. It's just what it is. Nobody's just going to volunteer to give you an extra $20,000. All right, so keep that in mind. Those are some of the things that I wanted to cover for you. Now let's talk about that second sheet that I have, your negotiation planning sheet that's in your PDF for this week, it's a circle that says your interest. At the bottom, it says their interest. And then the middle, it says mutual interest. The mutual interest that you have is that they already want you. They believe in you. That's why they're offering you the job. They want you to deliver on XYZ results. So stay in that middle ground and talk about as much as possible the things that you have in common when you're going in and you're asking for an additional day off each month, or a work from home day, or even an increase in salary. So you want to be in that sweet zone so that you can get more of what you want, but also make sure that they're getting more of what they want as well. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about, and if you have additional questions, go ahead and pop them in. The post-evaluation, the post-negotiation evaluation. Do not skip this step. A lot of people think, I'm done with the negotiation, my nerves are bad, I just want to sit back, have a glass of wine, eat some chocolate cake, or whatever it is that you want to do to celebrate, and you skip the step. You cannot skip the step. Okay, let me say that again. You cannot skip the post-negotiation evaluation, because you're going to be negotiating throughout your career on different things. So you always want to take a moment to reflect on everything that happened. So I'm giving you a few pointers here. After the negotiation, think about, did it go the way you wanted or not? And with that, how much time did you spend on research? How much time did you spend finding out how much people earn in that industry, the type of perks that they get, to determine if you would be accepting a good or bad deal? Now, if you spent 20 minutes, that might not be enough time, especially if you've been interviewing for over the course of several weeks, okay? Now, the next thing is, did you make a list of your interests? Don't make a mental note. Our minds are great, yes, I know, but sometimes you got to see it in black and white. Don't make a comparative list over something so important as a job that you're going to leave in your head. Go ahead, write it out, put it on a piece of paper. If you want to throw it and ball it up and throw it in the trash later, fine. Make that list on paper so that you can rationally compare and come to a conclusion of, is this a good or bad deal? Now, the next thing that I want you to check for is, next time I'll do this differently. This is why this evaluation sheet is so important. So after the fact, you want to be able to say, next time I'm going to do this. I'll say this. I'll ask this question so I have this part of information. On the flip side of that, you want to say, next time I will not. So whatever it is that you realize that during the process, like, I shouldn't have done that, you want to make sure that you are aware of that. So the next time you engage in a negotiation, you don't forget and you say it again. You actually want to say, I'm not going to do this because that part was not effective. Okay, so those are the main things that I wanted to talk to you about. Like I said, I've grouped your questions together into the format for today so that you can really get the most out of this part of the workshop. Next week, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing Q&A. The whole session is going to be designed for you. If you're going to be at work and you won't be able to ask questions live, I want you to send me your questions in advance so that I can answer one by one all of your questions. We might go a little bit longer next week because I'm going to stay with you until I answer everyone's questions. But next week is so that you can propel to the next level. We have gone through planning, getting crystal clear on our goals. We have talked about establishing our personal board of directors, how important it is to network and be savvy with our networking. We have talked about the plan B and the plan C and making sure that we have those plans